Hey, I'm Matt with Suburban Marine, here to show you how to build the Baromax Underwater Connector. Here's an inline cable assembly made up of an 8-pin male connector, an inline back shell, and a Cat 5 ROV cable. And the bulkhead assembly is made up of a female 8-pin connector, a bulkhead back shell, and some 18-gauge hookup wire. So we're going to prep and clean all the parts. It's important to wear gloves, and reminder that surface preparation is key when using adhesives. So the point is to keep your workspace clean and free of grease and debris. And so using sandpaper, you can fold it over to sand the side of the connector where it's going to bond to the back shells. And you're going to keep sanding until the neoprene is rough and not shiny. It takes, a couple minutes, and just keep working around slowly, and be careful not to remove too much material. You don't want to expose the pins under the neoprene. That could cause shorts and undesired performance. Now it's time to sand the inside of the back shells to prep for bonding. To do this, roll up a piece of sandpaper so that it fits inside of the inline back shell, and you want to rough up all the surfaces where the connector will be bonded. So both sides of the inline connector, and to clean up the faces where it bonds with the cable jacket and the connector, you can lay a piece of sandpaper flat and just sand away on the front and back of the back shells. Now you're going to abrade the inside of the bulkhead back shell, and you'll notice that the back where the hookup wire goes in is a little bit smaller, so I tore a piece of sandpaper to fit in there and abrade that. It's time to prep the cable jacket about 2 inches or 50 millimeters from the end. Just sand all around and make it rough. You'll need isopropyl alcohol to clean, and lint-free wipes like Kim wipes. You're going to clean all the surfaces that you prepped with sandpaper using liberal amounts of alcohol and Kim wipes to clean and degrease. So that's everything: the cable jacket, the inline back shell, both connectors, and the bulkhead back shell. Finally, the hookup wires as well. Follow good soldering practice. Use flux. In this case, I use a rosin flux pen, and flux the cables and connector cups prior to soldering. You're going to want to solder at a high temperature for a short period of time. With my soldering iron, I used 700 Fahrenheit or 370 C, and I'm using 6337 solder. That's 20 thou big. Start with pin 1, and you want to work in order to not work yourself into a corner. You can use clothespins at the assembly jig to hold the wires in position while you work around. The same goes with the inline assembly. You can use clothespins to orient the cable. It's a little stiffer than the hookup wire. And once again, you want to solder around from pin 1 to pin 8 in order until it's all connected. And this keeps you from working yourself into a corner and not being able to access the solder cups. Use liberal amounts of the isopropyl alcohol to clean the flux off the soldered connectors. In this case, I used a brush and a cup. Use a standard epoxy dispensing gun for 2-part adhesives. You'll need to burp the epoxy cartridge for the first use to make sure the adhesive comes out even. Next, you're going to prime the dispensing nozzle by dispensing a small amount of glue, and that ensures that everything's mixed well before you begin potting. The goal of the last step is to seal and pot the connector. Make sure everything's in position before you start. Start by applying some epoxy to the sides of the connector and slowly insert it into the connector back shell. If any excess material comes out, you can just wipe it up with a Kim wipe soaked in IPA. Repeat that step with the bulkhead back shell, applying some epoxy to the side and then sliding the connector face into the bulkhead back shell. Again, you can clean up excess material if you need to. Next, insert the needle to the bottom of the connector and fill up the cavity with the epoxy. Once you begin to see epoxy coming up, slowly remove the needle while still dispensing glue. Next, insert the needle into the bottom of the inline connector assembly, filling up the cavity and dispensing glue while you remove the needle until you see it at the back of the connector. That's it. Let it cure overnight. Longer is better. And thanks for watching.